Hello everyone, my name is Byron and I'm going to talk to you today about prompting with different LLMs and what that might look like, what to consider in your prompts and in your LLMs as you build your own applications. So I'm going to start by just giving us a high-level overview of how prompts and LLMs interact, and it's really not complicated at all. If you used ChatGPT, this will look very, very familiar to you. You start off with a prompt, the prompt goes into the LLM gives a response. But the thing I want to highlight with this, even though it's very, very simple, is that prompting is your first line of defense when it comes to what you put into the LLM. Or maybe it's not defense, but maybe it's your offense or your action. The first thing you can do to affect the output of the LLM is all in the prompting. And you can do a lot of other things, but really at the end of the day, a prompt is required, absolutely required in every LLM interaction. And so we take these prompts and we fine tune them. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't use that term here because you can fine tune LLMs as well, but you can tweak these prompts to provide just the right amount of context and information to the LLM to get the response you want. Now, down here, I've highlighted a few things. What are some components of a prompt? Well, there's context and instruction. And if you've done any work with ChatGPT, then you kind of know how these all play into that process. You also have some strategies you can use. There's few shot, one shot, zero shot, where you kind of give it where you give it examples, or you don't give it any examples, and you kind of see how it can do. Then you have chain of thought, which is where you prompt the LLM to think through things, to provide a thought, and then based off that thought, it will give a response, which is interesting because LLMs do work off context. So if they have to spell out their thinking, a thought, then that thought becomes part of their context, which can help in resolving a solution. It's not perfect, but it can definitely help. So LLMs also have different strengths. Some are really good at following instructions. Some require less context if they've been fine-tuned for a certain task. And others can provide better outputs or more structured outputs based on what you want it to do. But ultimately, it all leads to a response. Now, in ChatGPT, the response doesn't always need to be a certain format because you as a human will take that response and use it however you wish. But when it comes to building applications, that response and the structure of it can be critical to the success of the application because there may not be a human to look at the response and use it appropriately. It may just get passed to another application that may be expecting it in a certain format. So we got to make sure that as often as possible, the LLM is giving us something in the right formats for our applications to work. All right, to kind of show this example of how different LLMs may take a prompt and do things to have different responses, I want to show you this simple application here. In this application, we have 4 models that we'll be testing with. We have Llama 2, Zephyr, which are both ollama open source models on my machine. And then we are using 2 OpenAI models, GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. Okay, and down here we have a simple prompt that's asking for if the movie review is either positive or negative, and then we get a review for the movie You've Got Mail. Okay, and then we run through them all and we'll see their responses. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this. And while it's running, you'll notice that this review is, I think the instructions are pretty clear. I want you to tell me if the following movie review is positive or negative, and then the review is right here that you can read through. It should come out as positive. That's what we're expecting. But you'll notice that I haven't asked for any specific format, so we'll see what each of the models decides to do with their result. So let's see. Let me get this to come up here, and we'll see. So Llama 2 says the movie is generally positive, although it does mention some negative aspects of the film. Here's why. And then it goes through that. So it says it's positive, and then it gives this explanation. And then the next one, Zephyr, which is kind of a lighter model of Llama 2, if you will, a less fine-tuned version of it. It says, based on the given review, it appears to be a mix of both positive and negative, okay? And then down here, GPT 3.5 says the movie review is positive, and GPT 4 says the review is positive. Okay, so very interesting. Keep seeing these different results. Zephyr incorrectly pointed out that Tom Hanks and Matt Ryan, who is not in the movie, and in fact, there should be Ryan, right? So Hanks and Ryan. So it doesn't actually tell him Meg Ryan or whoever else, who Meg Ryan is the actress in the movie, but this one assumes it's Matt Ryan, the quarterback in the NFL. So we might, Zephyr obviously doesn't have all that context there. So let's try to see what we can do, if what these models would do if we were a little more specific in our instructions. So let's say we add the final response should only include, or should only be positive or negative. No pros beyond that. Okay. And let's give that a shot. And while that's going, I'm just going to add a little tidbit here that this whole no pros, this is one of my favorite things to add into my prompts, especially when I want things like code or I want things like a JSON in a certain format. I just say no pros, and around GPTs, the GPTs do really, really well at not adding anything else. And actually in this result right here, you see the GPTs, sure enough, just give me positive, even in the same casing. Now Llama 2 did say positive, but it did it in the positive P, which is fine, but that's just a little nuance there between the other models. And Zephyr didn't really do it very well at all, although I will say it's much less verbose, which is nice. Therefore, the final response is positive. So it did it, but it did it in its own format. Now, that's fine. Let's try to add something a little bit more. Let's take off this no pros part. Which would be, let's see. Let's say the final response should be in the following format. And so we'll say sentiment, positive or negative, and then reasons, and then give your reasons here. Okay, and we'll just see who comes out with the right outcome here. So this is actually asking the GPTs to be a little more verbose than they have been in the past. So we'll see how they do with that. Okay, so now look at what we've got here. We've got Llama 2 says sentiment positive, reasons, and then here's all the reasons. Great. Oh, look at that. Zephyr actually did the same thing. Sentiment positive, reasons. So there we go. Zephyr is actually doing exactly what we're asking it to do, and it's doing it correctly and it's doing it well, which is great. So we can actually leverage Zephyr as long as we get the right prompt in place in a format that we can that we like. And really, I could use this in an application if it's consistent enough, and we can test that. I won't do it in this video, but if we wanted to, we could test it more. Let's see, GPT 3.5, sentiment positive. There we go. And even got the Meg Ryan correct there. That's just because it's been trained on so much information. It knows it's Meg Ryan in this movie. GPT 4, sentiment positive, although it has the quotes around it, which I don't love, but I guess that's what I actually have up here. So despite some criticisms, storyline data. Okay, cool. Look at that. Very, very, very cool. Okay, so now we've got all three giving us the result that we want in the style that we want, and it just depends on the prompt. So again, when you're out there using prompt engineering, it is the first thing that you should do to try to get a LLM to do basically what you want it to do, to give you results in the way that you want them to be. And of course, there are many other ways to help an LLM get the result that you want, but this is the first line of defense, and it should always be the first thing that you try to do. So that's it for prompting, and good luck. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up or leave a comment. I love seeing comments and responding to anybody who's interested in talking through these kinds of things with me. I'm happy to answer any questions as well. All right, good luck and have a good one.